I said it a few weeks ago, maybe like a month ago. I said AD Robles is here to help. And I am, baby. I'm ready to help. And listen, this is going to be fun. All right, no video yesterday. And the reason there was no video yesterday is I was actually traveling back from Maine. I had the privilege of being present at Grant Van Brimmer. Actually, I should say Reverend Grant Van Brimmer was ordained to the ministry of God on Sunday. It was a wonderful service. A lot of people came from different parts of the country, and I got to meet some really cool people. And a pastor that I had, I've talked about this before. Right when I left New York, I changed churches for about 4 months, 6 months, something like that. And I attended a CREC church in Brooklyn, and I've said many times that this pastor I've learned so much from. Even though I was only there for half a year, I haven't learned more from any pastor in my entire life. Anyway, he was there because he was also Grant's pastor. Me and Grant didn't know each other back then, but anyway, just awesome to see him and his family. I didn't have any kids when I was at his church, and now I have 3, and it was just a great time of fellowship and all of that. Very, very encouraging. In fact, that pastor, Pastor Troy Green, I should say Reverend Troy Green, gave the charge to Grant for his ordination, and it was just so helpful. Oh, man, I'll tell you more about it some other time, but just such a blessing. I told him afterwards that I know he wasn't written for me, but I got a lot out of it, and his wife kind of said, hey, it was for you too. I don't know if she was serious or just joking, but either way, the Holy Spirit really used it. In any case, so all that to say, AD Robles is here to help. I blast the evangelical leadership a lot, and I'm not sorry for it, and I think it's necessary. And I've said many times that if you look at the example of Christ, what you'll see is that he reserves his harsh rhetoric and his harsh words for the leadership that's leading people astray. You know what I mean? That's the hypocrisy there is something that he hits on like a hammer, all the time. And then you see him dealing with the regular people, the congregation, the flock, so to say. And there's compassion and patience and sympathy and all of that kind of thing. I'm not dumb enough to say that that's a hard and fast rule that you must follow, but what I am saying is I'm trying to follow the example of Christ. And so I blast the evangelical leadership all the time, and I'm not sorry, and they definitely deserve it, and I think they needed it at the time. But again, AD Robles is here to help, and I love the Church of God. There's just no two ways about it. I talk about this all the time. I want the Church of God to be as strong as it can possibly be. And I think sometimes that the harsh criticism and breaking down what is being sold as biblical when it's completely demonic is completely necessary. And I probably 2 years ago, I said this to the Matt Chandlers of the world and, the Pipers of the world, the Platts of the world, Big Eva, Evangelical Inc., Gospel Inc., you might say. I said to them, there's going to come a time when you're going to have to make a decision because the woke movement, the social justice movement, it's not a halfway movement. They don't accept halfway crooks, right? So you're going to have to go all the way woke. They're going to demand it from you. And once this genie is out of the bottle, it's going to be very difficult to put it back in. You're going to have to make a choice. And they're going to want you to go all the way, and they're not going to accept you not going all the way. They're going to try to destroy you if you don't go with them all the way. Once you go woke, you're going to go all the way woke, or you're going to pay the penalty. I think that time is coming. It's before us right now, I believe. And it's not like this is a moment in history that's like critical, but I think that people are starting to wake up to this. In fact, we did the video about Jonathan Leeman's article that I had high praise for. And it's not a perfect article, but I see a trajectory kind of changing in that article. Now, do I trust Jonathan Leeman? No, I do not. Because you can't just have a lifetime, or I should say, years and years and years of nonsense, and then in one day. But I want to encourage Jonathan Leeman to keep down that path, because he needs to continue every day to make this decision to come against the cultural Marxism, the postmodernism, the wokeness that he was part of rubbing that lamp to let that genie out. Matt Chandler's the same way, and here is a video that, actually, I don't think this video's all wrong, by the way. This is a hilarious video. I found it from Woke Preacher Clips. Here's what he says about it. Woke Preacher Clip says, "The sassy ex-evangelicals are mad at Chandler for ripping, quote-unquote, deconstruction. I haven't seen the clip of him, but this having comments turned off is just mwah." And I have to say, after the 2 cringe videos that I did most recently, this is a welcome break, so to say. It might get your blood pressure going a little bit, but I clicked it, I listened to about a minute of it, and then I turned it off. I want to go in fresh. But I listened to enough of it to know what it's going to be about, at least I think. So we'll see how this goes, and let's begin.
It's bonkers that this needs to be said, but people aren't out here just randomly going, I don't have anything else going on, so let me dig into the history of the belief system I was raised in, or the middle part just isn't working for me, so let me put all my relationships on the line and talk about what I learned reading Jesus and John Wayne just so I can feel sexy. That's just not what's happening. What's happening is Bible-believing Christians raised in white evangelicalism have questions about current events and documented history and are getting told by their pastors that what matters more than unity is the illusion of
all
unity.
All right, so let me stop right there, because this lady, whoever she is, she's not all wrong. Now, I can see that she's trying to be edgy, and she's trying to talk like this and use words like sexy and stuff like that. That's trying to be edgelord. Listen, I've been there. I've tried to be the edgelord too. I get it. But editing AD here. So what's funny about this is, and I kind of suspected this when I was doing the video, but she uses the word sexy because Matt uses that word all the time. So really it's Matt that's trying to be the edgelord, and it's like, oh, this is so sexy. Like, he always does that. It's so awkward. It's so gross, weird, just doesn't make, in the context he uses it, it's gross. It's like, anyway, so credit to her for using his stupid language back at him. That's all I wanted to say. Enjoy. Here's the thing. So this, what it instantly reminded me of, this is about right where I stopped. I think I listened to another 5 seconds or so. But when I first heard this reminded me of, the story that you hear very regularly in evangelical circles, where the young man, 17, 16 years old, 18, he starts to come to the pastor very desperately with questions about, well, how do we know that God created the world in 6 days? And what about this for evolution? And all of a sudden he starts to have all these objections to the faith, right? Well, what about the textual variance and stuff like that? And I think at this point every pastor understands what's going on. And what's going on is that young man has a girlfriend that he wants to have sex with. And so he's looking for excuses as to why what he taught was wrong so that he can go and do whatever the heck he wants. The guy he desires to sin. And he desires to sin. And so when you're desiring to sin, your mind is very good at coming up with all kinds of excuses as to why you can sin. Look, we all understand this in our own lives. If you know yourself at all, you know that when you want to sin, you're very good at coming up with reasoning to make it okay to sin. And so this is what's happening here as well. I think these ex-evangelical types and these feminist types, that want to subvert everything and all of that kind of stuff, they have a sin. They desire to sin as well. I don't know what it is in this case, but it could be anything. It could be, I desire to rule over my husband. That's probably what it is in many cases, because that's actually in the scripture. So you desire to rule over your husband. I desire things that God says I shouldn't do. Whatever it is. It could be, homosexuality. It could be lesbianism. That is homosexuality. Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. It could be all kinds of things. And so all of a sudden, I've got a lot of questions for you, Pastor. I've got a lot of questions for you. And so that's what's happening here. There's a desire, here, to deconstruct the faith because there's a desire to sin. It's just that simple. That's what happens. Now, I don't actually feel like she's all wrong, though, because listen to what she says next. She says that they went to their pastors with all these questions about current events and about documented history, probably racism, slavery, nonsense like that. And they all of a sudden have questions about this, as if they're the first ones to ever have these questions, by the way. So here is what she says they heard from their pastors, that the illusion of unity is more important than actual unity. And listen to what her example is, because this is very, very interesting.
So let's just pretend that 2016 and 2020 didn't happen and make sure we have a person of color on the stage singing backup every Sunday. And while we're at it, we're just going to let Regina spam everyone in the women's ministry with her blog post about how all lives matter, because she really has a point. Because in order to keep the big givers giving, we have to keep everyone happy, because how else are we going to rent a bunch of bounce houses for our summer festival or pay for pastor's summer sabbatical?
Yeah. So I honestly don't think she's entirely wrong here. So she's obviously very cynical. And I understand why, because some of the things she's talked about, okay, here's what we'll do. Well, we're going to be very diversity focused. So we're going to put a black guy up there. We're going to hire a black guy. I mean, Chandler was the one who said this out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. We're going to find a black guy, if it kills us. Whether it's an unqualified black guy, underqualified black guy, we're going for a black guy because we're committed to diversity, kingdom diversity. And it's like, that's bogus. That's fake. That's fantasy. That's pretend. And the thing is, this whole idea of I got to keep everybody happy, excuse me, there are a lot of pastors that are doing this, that are trying to keep everybody happy. And so they'll talk, they're kind of going into the woke stuff a little bit, but then they kind of come back and say, oh, yeah, well, I'm against critical theory. And it's like, right, you're against critical theory, but that last blog post you did was basically critical theory applied, and then you sprinkle a little Jesus on it, and you tried to trick us with that. It's like, and Big Eva's doing this, man. Like, all these guys are coming, well, I'm against critical theory, but they have articles on their blog posts that apply critical theory. Oh, I'm a racist. That was Matt Hall, right? He's against critical theory on paper. I mean, he signed the Baptist Faith and Message. But he's like, well, I'm a racist. He's applying critical theory when he says that, because I'm pretty sure what he's not saying is that I hate black people or I look at black people as lesser. That's not what he's saying when he says that. In fact, I got into an argument about with one of his black friends. He's got black friends, by the way. One of his black friends about that. I think it was Amin Hudson. I could be wrong about that. Amin Hudson was kind of vouching for him. I said, do you think he's a racist? And he said no at some point. I mean, it took him a while to really answer, if I remember correctly. I could be mistaking that one, so sorry if I am. But yeah, so the point is that she's kind of right about this. Like, yeah, they're kind of hemming and hawing and stuff like that. They don't want to take a big stand because, in fact, some churches, I know of churches that as a rule say you can't take a stand on certain issues because it's too divisive, and the church will. But doesn't the Bible teach on these issues? Like, that's the thing. It's like, so she's not all wrong about this. Now, of course, she's being super cynical and all of that. Granted, she's sassy, but she's not entirely wrong about this. What she's lamenting right now is essentially what I was warning about not that long ago, a couple years ago. We're at the decision point. We're there. You're going to have to tell us what the Bible teaches on very important topics in our time. And guess what's going to happen when you do that? You're going to piss a lot of people off. And maybe you're going to have to downsize your building. And maybe you might have to downsize your salary. And maybe this is going to be a problem. It's going to be a lot of difficult and uncomfortable conversations, and conversations that you don't want to have, but you kind of have to have. Because here's the thing. The pastor's job, or at least one of them, is to preach the word of God, the whole counsel of God. And the whole counsel of God, that's a lot, and it applies to every area of life, and it applies to our politics, and it applies to our government and our laws and our punishments for crimes and everything. You're gonna have, the time is coming, because here's the reality: the woke will never relent. They're gonna push and push and push until one day you're gonna find yourself tempted to sign on the dotted line that says abortion is actually a good thing. And maybe transgenderism is a legitimate Christian lifestyle. Eventually, you're going to be tempted to sign on that dotted line. That's what's going to happen. And so let's continue, because there's some more here.
And by everyone, what we mean are the older people who have established careers and beach houses, not the millennials who are up to their eyeballs in student debt. You guys don't tithe that much, so you can just go ahead and put your comment cards in the special file. And that just doesn't compute with a lot of folks, because we're the ones whose best friends are having to talk to their kindergartners about police brutality. We're the ones having to explain to our 7th graders what Joey meant in second period when he chanted "Build the Wall." And we're the ones having to explain to our sons why their friends' dads don't know how to do laundry.
Okay, so stop for a second. So you can see kind of where this is coming from. She does want to sin. She wants to sin in whoever wrote this. I don't know if this person actually wrote this, but whoever wrote this does want to sin. She wants her husband to be doing the things that a wife typically does. And so you can see the whole mentality. Look, I do laundry myself. I'm not saying that doing laundry is effeminate. What I'm saying, but you can see where her gripes are, right? You could see where her complaints are. Anyway, my wife would never complain if I didn't do the laundry. I do the laundry because I happen to enjoy work like that. But anyway, that's not the point. That's not the point. So you can see here that she's lamenting the fact that she has to talk to her son about police brutality, or a kindergartner about build the wall and stuff like that. You see, this is life, guys. This is life. These are real life issues. And again, this is not a sad thing that she has to. This should be an opportunity, because the thing is, the Word of God applies to all of these things, all of them. And so she's kind of, you can see she's being subversive here, but she's actually not wrong about a lot of this, because there are churches that, as a rule, don't take a stand on certain things. And so that means that your people aren't being discipled in those things. The Word of God is so much better than we thought it was, guys. And again, there's going to come a time, and it's quickly approaching. This video is an example of this, because she's pushing the envelope here. There's going to come a time where you're going to feel tempted to sign on the dotted line of something that you never thought you would be. You never thought you'd be tempted by this, and you're going to be tempted because every step of the way you kept giving ground. You practice disobedience is what you did. You practice disobedience for the last 5 years, 10 years, however long it's been, and then you're going to come to the point where you're going to be at a place where you never thought you'd be, where all of a sudden you're saying transgenders are the best thing ever. It's in sliced bread. You see, this whole thing, I'm reminded of John Lehman's cultural capital thing. Do you remember that conversation he had on Cross Politic, where, remember, Chocolate Knox made that very very small comment, but I remember at the time I said, this is an amazing comment. Knox does this all the time, where he just throws something in there off the cuff. It's just, and you might miss it if you're not listening. You remember he said, Jonathan Lehman's explaining his nonsense about cultural capital and how we're not going to have any shortage of things to take a stand on. So why take a stand on COVID lockdowns and stuff like that? And Knox said, going to church on Sunday is a hill I'd be willing to die on. It was a small comment. I remember saying, yeah, bingo. Because that is the hill to die on. Whether or not you worship God in spirit and truth on Sunday morning with your brethren as He's commanded, with the elements there, the excuse me, all of it rightly administered and stuff like that, not on a TV screen, for goodness sake. And it's like, that's the issue. If you're not taking a stand on that, what is more important than that? Because my brother said this the other day. He said, whatever issue you think is more important than that you would take a stand on, behold your idol. Oh, I would take a stand if they came to try to take away my family. I would take a stand. Yeah, okay, so you would take a stand to defend your family, but not to defend the assembly of Jesus Christ? Behold your idol. Because it's not wrong to take a stand with your family, but if you're doing that, but not doing that for the worship service of Jesus Christ, you've got your priorities all jacked up. And so this woman here, whoever wrote this, I don't know if she wrote this, so keep saying that. She's pushing the envelope, and she's now going to tempt you. This is a tempting offer, because they're going to destroy your life if they can. And they're going to try. They're going to try to get you to go all the way woke with them. They're going to try to get you to deconstruct your faith like them. And they're going to use all their vicious tactics against you. Matt Chandler, I don't know what you said that got them all riled up, but brother, let me help you out, because I know how to respond to these people. Let's finish this, and maybe she'll explain what Matt Chandler said.
Yeah, it's not because we want to feel sexy, Matt Chandler. You're talking about a bunch of exhausted and heartbroken people with decision fatigue and access to very few elders they can trust. And then people like you come along and say that if we really believed, then we wouldn't have any appetite for deconstruction. But that presupposes, of course, that what we're deconstructing is an instance of authentic Christianity, which is the very thing that has been called into question. The whole point is that we want authentic Christianity, not this bogus white evangelical ideology that creates conditions in which it's possible for men in church to cover up abuse and politicians to pretend that the distribution of wealth and opportunities in our society is based entirely on merit, or that it ever has been.
We want authentic Christianity that's like totally communist and like bends all to our will.
Let me explain to you how you deal with some of this. You say, listen, sweetheart. Why don't you go home, talk to your husband about it, and if he has any questions, have him come talk to me. That's how you deal with these people, Matt. But the thing is, the reality is that Matt, you did this. You let this genie out of the bottle, and now you're going to have to make a choice. I'm hoping that based on this video that you're starting to make the right choice. God bless you in that. God bless you in that, because this is going to be a hard road, and it was made harder by your many compromises in the plan. You wanted to play footsies with the woke, right? You wanted to play footsie with them, and maybe it won't lead to, maybe leg touching or anything. That's what you wanted to do, but that's never how sin works. We all know this in our own lives, right? We all know this in our own lives where, you give the devil a foothold, right? And you think, I can get a little closer to this fire. I can get a little closer to this fire, and it won't burn me. No, it definitely won't burn me. By the way, this is a biblical principle. This is Proverbs 6. It says this, to keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman, lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom, and his clothes not be burned? Can one go up upon hot coals, and his feet not be burned? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever touches her, shall not be innocent. You can't play with these people, man. You can't play with these people. They're not kidding. They hate the Lord. They hate his anointed. And all day, every day, they are plotting schemes. That's what the scripture says. They're plotting schemes against the Lord and against his anointed. And the reality is they can't touch the Lord. They can't touch the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and they know that in their heart of hearts, but they're still planning and plotting and conspiring against the Lord and his anointed. And so what does that look like? It looks like attacking his church, because they feel like they can touch the church. And in many ways they have. And quite frankly, Matt, you were part of it. And I'm not saying you did it wittingly, or maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I'm not saying anything definitively, but you let it happen. You thought you could take the coal, put it close to your bosom, and not get burned by it. That's what you thought. I got a little bit, it's gonna be. I'm gonna get a little bit woke, and we're just gonna play a little bit with this critical theory. It's an analytical tool. We just use it. They're not playing, man. They're not playing. Look, we'll help you. We'll help you. It'd be helpful, though, if you guys could stop shooting us in the back. Because here's the thing. This battle has been raging, and you guys are way back there in the back lines, right? You're in the back. We're in the front lines of this. So please stop shooting us in the back while we're trying to advance here, because that's been quite annoying in the past few years. We'll help you. We'll help you, and you can fight this battle, too. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of these strategies, because they were all used against me. By the way, some of your buddies, Matt, were some of the ones using these strategies, and they're coming for you, too. They're coming for you. I'll help you out. I'm a helpful guy. A.D. Robles is here to help. Let's finish this.
Oh, we're super sorry if this makes your job more difficult. You might have to think through some tough topics that are outside your wheelhouse, or the horror You may even find that some of the questions that it raises are things that you're just not competent to speak to. And if that's the case, maybe don't.
It is sassy. It is sassy. But here's the thing. Like, this is what I predicted. I don't remember the exact video. I'm going to probably look for it and see if I can find it. But I predicted that there would come a time when you're going to have to make a decision. They're going to come for you because they want you to be all the way woke. They want you. Look, Satan's never happy with the foothold, right? The devil is never happy with just the foothold. He uses the foothold to get more. He wants everything. He hates the Lord. He hates his anointed. And he wants to destroy it all. And so if you need some help here, brother, on how to deal with this stuff, we got your back. You don't have to talk to me. I'm just a nobody on YouTube, right? You don't have to talk to me, but there are people. It's all the people that you've been sniping from behind and you've been talking about in your little meetings. I know about the meetings, Matt. Come on, man. I know what you guys talk about. I know who you're talking to. I know all the gossip that was said against people like me, against Askell, against all these guys, James White, all of these guys, Doug Wilson. You know, there's a whole list of people. I know what's said. I know who's been involved. I know all of it, guys. And look, the reality is that Christians are people that must forgive. We must forgive. And so, guys, we will help you. We'll help you fight this thing because we've been in this battle a lot longer than you have. While you were still kind of playing footsie with the enemy, we were in this battle. Here's the reality, brother. They're coming for you, and I'm praying for you that this is the turning point where you realize you shouldn't have been playing footsie with the devil. You shouldn't have been playing footsies with the doctrines of demons. Instead, you should have been holding your ground from the beginning. You can be against racism and all this stuff in a biblical way. You don't have to do it the way CNN and the feminist crew wants you to do it. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.